Austin. So I'm in Click with Patriot Industries, and we just want to come to you today and talk about aluminum conduit versus steel. I appreciate everybody that's joining us. So I've been with Patriot about 3 years. I know, Steve well and some of the other guys. I'm sure I've met quite a few of you before. We appreciate the partnership with Capital. Patriot, manufacturer of rigid aluminum conduit, elbows, couplings, nipples, rigid galvanized steel, elbows, couplings, nipples, EMT elbow, stainless steel 304 and 316 conduit, elbows, couplings, nipples, and associated accessories located in Louisa, Virginia. So we're halfway between Charlottesville and Richmond. A little about the company. We've been in business for 10 years. This is actually our 10-year anniversary. Tom Click and Sarah Click, my aunt and uncle, actually started the company in 2010 with 1,000 square foot of rented space and a one Rothenberger threading machine in Earlysville, Virginia. So Tom came from the extrusion industry. He pulled in some favors, bought some 3/4 aluminum extrusions, started threading them, and today Patriot. We have a 30,000 square foot factory in Louisa, Virginia, 45,000 square foot of storage capability in Petersburg, Virginia. That's where all of our elbows, couplings, and nipples ship from. We're the only American family owned and operated business producing these lines of conduit products, 100% made in America conduit, elbows, couplings, and nipples. We use CNC threading to thread our couplings and some of our nipples and elbows, which gives a really high quality product, super accurate. We have 10 stocking locations across the U.S. and love to hire vets. As you can see from the name and the marketing, we're big into patriotism. We also send a thank you for your order pack with every order as a pocket Constitution, American flag pin, and a thank you letter from Tom Click, the owner of the company, saying thank you for supporting American manufacturing. But today we're going to focus more on aluminum versus steel conduit in above ground applications. Aluminum is a direct replacement for rigid galvanized steel anywhere above ground. If you've got duck banks or something where you bury aluminum conduit in the ground or in concrete, Article 344 of the NEC requires you provide supplementary corrosion protection. So a bit of mastic paint or bit of mastic or asphalt wrap. We can get you more information if you have a customer that's looking at that. But anywhere above ground, it's a direct replacement. It reduces the risk, costs less, and installs faster than steel anywhere above ground. The material for aluminum conduit is 6000 series aluminum. It's the same dimensional standards as rigid galvanized steel conduit. So rigid galvanized steel conduit falls under UL 6. Rigid aluminum conduit falls under UL 6A. So they're the same dimensions, and thread a piece of 4-inch aluminum directly into a piece of 4-inch rigid gal with a rigid gal coupler aluminum coupling, either or. You can use them interchangeably. So if you have an installation that has rigid gal coming up out of the duct bank, special radius elbow or something coming up, a stub up coming out of the floor, and you want to switch directly over to rigid aluminum to go up to a HVAC system in the on the roof, then you could just screw a piece of aluminum directly onto that stub up and continue the run in aluminum. Article 344.14 of the NEC talks about using aluminum and steel fittings together and vice versa. Rigid aluminum conduit is order the resistance of steel when used in conjunction with aluminum boxes, elbows, and other fittings is 5 times greater conductivity. Can be used as a ground fault. it's just a for conduit. The study I've got up right now shows 2-inch rigid gal and aluminum conduit connected in series with 22,200 amps RMS ran through it for 10 seconds. So you can see that the steel 4 times as hot during a 10-second test. The coupling smoked. The threads were damaged. In contrast, the aluminum showed no sign of recurrent passage. The only way you could tell that it had any current passage through it was the gummed up labels. Just a side note, I put it at the bottom. The information in this technical presentation is from our aluminum conduit white paper. And if anybody would like a copy of that, we can get you that. You can read it yourself and use it with your customers if you do have somebody with a project that is steel and they want to convert it to aluminum. Rigid aluminum's non-sparking, it's non-magnetic. It's great for explosion-proof applications. I believe it's 501 of the NEC talks about using rigid aluminum conduit in Class 1, Division 1, Class 2 locations, all the explosive hazardous locations. It's approved just like rigid steel conduit. So no problems there. And the advantage you get is it's non-magnetic and it doesn't spark. So even better for combustible dust or gas applications. Being non-magnetic, aluminum provides 10 to 20% less voltage drop than rigid galvanized steel. This really comes into play in conductors or feeder or branch circuits larger than 250 MCM. So when you get up in those large size conductors, the lower voltage drop can actually allow you to downsize the wire, possibly one size. And if you downsize the wire, then your conduit field changes. So you possibly could downsize the conduit as well. Like I said before, the white paper has some examples of that and goes a little bit more in depth, but for the technically minded people, it's they call it hysteresis losses, is from the AC currents that drives the aluminum to be less voltage drop than steel because steel's magnetic. Rigid aluminum conduit is a third the weight of steel. So if you've got any applications on a roof in the upper Midwest or Northeast, this could be a big thing with snow. You want to reduce the weight of conduit on your roof. We've got an example of an AC system there with 5,000 foot of 2-inch rigid conduit. In this example, aluminum will be 5,900 pounds, steel would be 1,700 or 17,500 pounds. The direct comparison is 4-inch rigid versus 4-inch rigid aluminum. Steel would be 103 pounds per stick. Aluminum will be 35 pounds per stick. So you can see there's a huge weight savings just by switching to aluminum conduit. And that really drives the labor savings in aluminum conduit. You can see the installation labor cost chart here, and we'll get into that a little bit further when I talk about our app that you can download. But you can see, say, 2-inch aluminum versus steel. In just a laid-in trench applicator, you're looking at 6.2 man-hours per 100 feet. To install aluminum 2-inch conduit, and you would to install the same steel conduit 2-inch, you'd be at 9.9 man-hours per 100 feet. So nice labor savings. The contractors you're dealing with should love to hear that. Like I said, we have an app that you can download. Just go to the App Store, Google Play Store, type in Patriot Conduit. It's 100% for free. What it will show you on the first screen, it asks you what kind of installation type and what's your labor rate. Then you can punch in, once you select that, then you can punch in your bill of materials. So on this particular application, I just took some screenshots off my phone. I put in 5,000 feet of 3/4, 900 feet of 2-inch, and 600 feet of 4-inch. And what the app returns is the savings. So typically aluminum conduit is 40% right now cheaper material cost than steel. And then you have the labor cost added on top of that. So in this application, pretty small material, you'd save $14,455, $1,000 in material savings, $5,000 in labor, 111.7 hours saved on the project. And you can see the breakdown. Prices are based on industry average prices going to a contractor. So, it's not going to hurt any relationships by them punching it in on the app. It'll just return a number that's available in the market, but it's probably not the best number that they're going to see from you guys at Capital. Over the lifespan, aluminum's a little more valuable when you recycle stuff. So if you're moving anything or taking anything out, recycling old conduit installations, aluminum's going to yield a higher price. So right now, I think these numbers are kind of accurate. They may be a little higher or lower, but aluminum's around 55 cents a pound versus 3 cents a pound for galvanized. This is a case study of a project we did in Kentucky. It's actually 33 miles of 4-inch, 20-foot rigid aluminum conduit. So we can do special, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second, but we can do special length conduit, 15-footers, 20-footers. Typically, they take a little longer of a time to produce, but this particular project, there was a huge labor savings from converting the project from 10-foot steel conduit to 20-foot aluminum conduit. You can see the material savings was about 1.1 million. The approximate hour saved would be $20 an hour. The reason we use the $45 an hour is just a good number for labor, like all-in cost to the company. So, I've heard some markets they say that's a lot higher, and some say it's a little less. But you can see $900,000 saved in labor hours to install this conduit is huge. So you're $2 million total savings on this project. Like memes here at Patriot. So Tom put together some marketing images. This one shows boss how many dollars they can save by using aluminum. Gets the promotion. Bring some value, I guess. Installation, cutting, bending, threading. It's the same dimension standards as steel. So use the same threading tools, but you'll get more life out of your shapes and dies using aluminum versus steel, just because it's easier to thread. You can use any of the rigid company. They offer suggestions for the threading oils and lubricants to use for aluminum and steel and stainless steel. Pretty much anything works when threading aluminum. Bending, same thing. You can use any of the standard, hand benders, power benders. If you are using a power bender, just like with IMC and EMT, the bending manufacturers suggest using the IMC and EMT support rollers. So if you had like a 555 or an 855, you'd want to make sure to use the IMC or EMT support rollers, because that provides a full round bend every time. If you don't use the support rollers, sometimes you'll get some flattening. Cutting, hacksaw, roller cutter, any of those normal power hacksaw, any of those normal cutting methods will work just fine. Got another little chart here, comparison steel versus aluminum. Yeah, it's non-sparking, non-magnetic, rust-free, whereas steel is magnetic, will spark, rusts. Patriot can also provide custom bending and custom threading services. So this is a project we actually did in Richmond, Virginia, at a hospital. They had 8 runs of 6-inch aluminum conduit that needed to be bent with a 15-inch offset. And then we made the custom elbows and nipples to get all the runs to line up, perfectly. But packaged it, bent it, packaged it, shipped it direct to the contractor. They threw it up and had that turned around pretty quickly. I think within about 10 days. So if you've got any special length conduits, 3-foot nipples, 4-foot nipples in rigid gal, aluminum, or stainless, we'd help you with that. If anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to go over those. And I appreciate you all attending, and we appreciate the business capital's provided us for the last few years here.
Steve, one quick question. Yep. Can you just sort of quantify the markup between regular galvanized rigid conduit versus the aluminum? Is there a 20% delta? Is it 10? Do you have any way to?
It's usually close to 40%. I usually see rigid steel is about the 150 mark for 1/4, 150 to 160. Aluminum is going to be around the $100, $90-$100 range, and that's for contractor type price.
Right.
To the distributor is going to be a little less. Just depends. But
so
usually,
people on project opportunity, it's obviously labor savings. It's going to be some value add there. But we'll have them get through. Like Chuck and the team, they know how to do it. I just wanted to kind of get that on this conversation, just so people know it is a little bit more expensive, but just know where we're at.
Well, it's more expensive to buy steel. So aluminum would be $100 per 100 foot, and steel, rigid galvanized steel 3/4 will be like $150, $160 per 100 foot. Gotcha. So aluminum's way cheaper.
Yeah.
It varies all the time with metal, just like everything. We used to say 10 to 40%, but everything I'm seeing right now is 40% less expensive to go with aluminum conduit than steel.
Hey, Stephen, for the custom bends, what do you all require to get those start to be put in bending?
So basically, we're doing those on a case-by-case basis. I had a project yesterday, or day before yesterday, and yesterday that I was working on in Wisconsin that needed some 30-inch stub ups with a 20-foot tail going back into the ground, made out of 2-inch 304 stainless steel. So we did the math basically to figure out what the price was going to be, figured up the delivery time to make, cut, polish, bend, thread the material. We were going to deliver those, like if we got the order yesterday, we would have delivered them the first week of September. The project ended up not going through with that, but it was like 20s of 2-inch, 30-inch stub ups, not bent 90 degrees. So the best thing is just reach out to us. if you can provide some type of draw. I actually went and just drew up a little elbow and marked it up so the guy I was talking to would know what I was thinking when he was talking to me. We just kind of talk it through, work back and forth, what you need. The 15-inch offset bins, literally that was a yellow piece of legal pad waxed over. That was like, I need these bins this long, this much offset, and I need these 90s to come out straight. And we worked with our production team to bend those. It's nothing. We're not to the point where we could, accept like a bid model and make something up like that. Mostly it'd just be going back and forth with email or something handwritten.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions? Has anybody ever converted a project from steel to aluminum?
I've done a few small ones with some of the contractors I call on. They've been very, very pleased, and it's been successful every time we've been able to do it. Gotcha.
I think one of the hardest part is the boilerplate specs. I know Jared and I have talked about this a lot. Getting the engineers that are, they're copy and pasting over specs from previous projects to new projects, or having those boilerplate specs where they allow the use of rigid aluminum conduit right out of the gate, and the contractor doesn't have to go and try to VE it. So if you all run into any of those cases where you would need help with the specification, please reach out to me, Dustin, the One Source guys, and we'd be happy to help try to convert that opportunity over.
Stephen, it was shared with I know the One Source crew about the MDOT approval. Would you like to just talk about that? And I'm not sure if anybody on here works with the Transit Authority, but it might be something.
It was actually the VDOT approval. So I actually started in March looking for an opportunity to get our stainless and aluminum conduit and ECN products and steel, rigid galvanized steel, elbows, couplings, nipples, and EMT elbows approved by the Virginia DOT. So as of July 4th, 2020, they actually gave us a really nice approval date. All of our products that are standard items for the Virginia DOT are approved for projects. So they don't have to go and get some type of approval. Most of the typical manufacturer, Wheatland, Pacoma, Republic, Allied, most of those guys are on the list. But we actually created a little bit of a rule change where their products use a rigid metal conduit, and now they're going to shift that to say rigid metal conduit aluminum, or rigid metal conduit stainless steel, or rigid metal conduit steel on the approval. So should see some changes on that if anybody works with the VDOT. I don't really know what type of projects that's going to benefit us on exactly, but it should just be an easier path to get Patriot products on any Department of Transportation projects. And if anybody has any questions about that, I'd love to try to answer them. I'm not a transportation expert, but I navigated the system and got approved once.
We'll have to do it for the rest of the government agencies in our territory.
Yeah, if anybody has any opportunities like that, I'd love to, explore them and try to help get any type of approvals or specifications.
All right, so